Samos, a base that has quite a large amount of history even for being so young. Despite the base having been less than 5 months old, it is still considered to be one of the greatest bases ever built on the server. The founder of this base, Treader, has been kind enough to give me his story on this server. He also gave me information on the rise and fall of Samos. Welcome to 6A 6K History. Back in late 2020, Treader had joined 6A6K for the first time. He had made a few alliances with the people on the server, including myself. One day, I started ranting on the server and ended up arguing with Treader, who was on an alt at the time, and I wasn't aware that this was him. After a while, I began to respect him for his interesting character, so I decided to give him a kit, so he would have a better start on his journey. He built smaller bases at first, for example, the Sanctuary, which was just a farm with a building inside a mountain, although those bases were short-lived and got griefed by a player named Puzzle. However, this unfortunate event would not stop Treader from building. Treader had big plans for this server. He wanted to create the best base this server has ever seen. Treader began traveling the overworld on foot and stopped around 50k and began getting to work. At first, Treader had no idea what he was building, but as he built, he began thinking about a fishing town theme for his base. Treader invited some of his real-life friends onto the server to build at his base, who went by Soul446, I'm Boolin, Unnova66, Mpapa, and Bubbles. He never invited players other than his friends for a long while. At first, the base was very active. Treader would often post in chat that he was going to build the best base ever. And everyone, including me, thought that this was just a big old sham. Since he was just a new player, what good could he bring to the table? Well, as it turns out, he and his friends brought a whole pot of good-looking builds to this server. The construction on the base was going smoothly, with no conflict, besides the Forgotten King, our server owner, harassing them a few times by killing them a lot. Best owner, am I right? Anyways, months would pass, and the base is still moving along. However, a problem began showing within the group. Resources were starting to get very annoying to make. Treader had made a chest room in case of any incoming dupes, but none came. Over time, the base grew inactive. Eventually, a dupe surfaced. It was the pop-up sex dupe, also known as the Christmas dupe because it was discovered during Christmas break and continued until Christmas. What a magical time that was, a bunch of sweaty gamers mashing their keyboards as quickly as possible to get some in-game items. And Treader was one of them. Boy, he went ham on that dupe like, woo! Yeah, baby! Quickly, he filled his entire item stash. Samos started becoming something great. There were many buildings at Samos, now including a castle, a giant windmill, Treader's massive house that he built from the ground up, Mpapa's underwater dome, and a statue of Poseidon looking at the city from a distance. I started growing very interested in Treader, and after being hesitant for the longest time, I felt he was trustworthy enough to see my solo base in person. Treader was honored by this and allowed me to become a member of Samos as well. Eventually, TFK came back to the base, so Treader showed the base's progress to him. TFK showed great respect to Treader and complimented the base. He deemed it as the best base on the server. TFK created a massive dragon egg in the city and placed his bed there. Robtron was soon invited, and he too started building at Samos. He got to work building a decorative tunnel through the tall hill. It led to a peninsula Rob flattened to begin thinking about his expansion to the base. Unfortunately, these were going to become the last additions to Samos. When I learned that TFK was now basing at Samos, I grew concerned because I knew all the unfortunate events that happened at bases that TFK lived at or visited. I warned Treader about TFK's shenanigans, but he didn't listen. To him, TFK was a power symbol to Samos. However, soon, TFK would become the demise of this base. One day, while at Samos, TFK accidentally TP'd a player to Treader's bed, the Steampunk, who was a member of the Riptiders. He took screenshots of the cords before TFK TP'd him away. Steam later brought his friends from Riptiders and stole Treader's entire stash as a prank. After wondering what had happened to his stash, a Riptider member named Faulty Servers gave him the news of his stash. They later gave back Treader's stuff except for a dub of kits. Obviously, this made Treader extremely upset. He became even more upset when he learned that more people had coordinates to his base. Treader became worried. However, TFK promised that he would protect the base from any griefers. While Treader was thankful for TFK's protection, he knew the damage had already been done. Samos was no longer safe for Treader and his items. Treader made the difficult decision to grieve Samos. The man who built Samos from the ground up was about to destroy his own creation. All of the duped items and everything else was moved to a safe location. Then Treader got everyone who helped build the base online to help him destroy Samos. Before he destroyed it, however, he wanted other players to see the base, and so he TP'd everyone who was online at the time. None of them knew what was about to happen to this place. A day later, and it was time. The TNT started getting placed, and all of them watched as their base crumbled. The base was left in ruins. Now no one could get the satisfaction of griefing one of the greatest bases on the server. While the base may be gone, its legacy will not be forgotten. In a few short months, Treader turned from a complete new player to gaining the respect of many old players. At last, there was finally a base that rivals Alexandria. Many will say surpasses it. It is impressive that Treader started building a base like Samos without any duped items, just raw work and skill, with the assistance of his real-life friends. Now that Treader has access to a dupe from the Christmas pop-up sex dupe, who knows what amazing places he could build next. While the sun sets over the Psalm crater of Samos, a new spectacle is waiting to rise above the horizon. itching to be born to create a new legacy on 6A 6K.